Hey, good morning. To whoever is watching this, I think this is going to be dedicated to the Black Lives Matter Rocket Yoga group. We had our first, I think we're on day 3 today, and yeah, it's really beautiful to practice with other people of color, practice yoga, practice coordinating large social movements. Over 2,000 people are participating, using social media and Google Drives and Zoom, and it's really it's very emergent. A lot of just what's coming up, how's it coming up, who's going to coordinate what in what ways, how can we support each other, can we give people a little bit of leeway and patience and be present and be supportive and be kind. There's a lot of things that are alive in this kind of community action work, and it's really beautiful because I think I've had a interesting relationship to Black Lives Matters, and trying to find myself in relationship to the organization as well as the movement, not in any type of way of not being supportive, and yet not knowing exactly how I could support and what the true type of support would look like coming from me. And taking part in this yoga training is just perfect in so many ways. And so this goes out to everyone participating. This goes out to ABCD who are organizing it, and to all the people that could use some space and some breath and some reposturing in their lives, who aren't able to participate or don't know about it yet. So this is going to be a reading in honor of that. It's already been 2 minutes, so I'll kind of move into it. Usually these readings, I'll pick 1 card or 2 cards, usually like a longer story, or an archetype, and then I'll do some drawings around that. I don't really go through a bunch of cards normally. I usually use a few to tell a very particular story, and I never know exactly what that story is going to look like. Yeah, so let's get started. I think that's pretty good. So we'll start with an archetype. We just want to ask for guidance and support, give gratitude for today, for waking up and having whatever our practice looks like, whatever our ritual looks like in life. Thank you for all the events and teachers and guides and visible and invisible support that has allowed us to be here today in whatever way we've shown up. So the card is the Eternal Child. That's my dog. She has no name, but she has tons of spirit. The Eternal Child. The inner child, the child of joy. The Eternal Child is connected to the timeless, ageless, and infinite aspects of life. It is radiant and fearless and seeks joy above all else and at any cost. It struggles being bound to an aging body with physical limitations in a world that demands attention to detail and logistics. The Eternal Child wants to nix all rules and responsibilities and go beyond what others say is possible. It wants to return, with plenty of friends, to the land of the free, where divine wine and creativity pour from the earth and sky. We all want to sip from the well of the eternal youth, and this makes the Eternal Child naturally popular, perhaps even famous. The Eternal Child glimmers. It reminds us of what is possible, what is magical about this precious life. When light, joyful, playful, accepts all, magic. When dark, addicted, selfish, adrift, burns out. This archetype is so spirited that when its appetite for life isn't satiated, it seeks spirits and substance elsewhere. The eternal child struggles with addictions of all varieties. So I guess this is dedicated to the eternal child in all of us, and the energy of the eternal child in all the ways it may support us today. I'm going to use the Wild Unknown Animal Tarot deck. So on the board we have buffalo and we have gazelle. And when I think about buffalo, the buffalo in this deck is really about bringing heaven to earth. The buffalo is like this sacred, revered animal in a lot of indigenous, well, particularly North American indigenous culture. And while it is this direct relationship and held up in this very mystical, spiritual way, in other ways it's really just this embodied, grounded, very material creature. You know, the buffalo in its own natural state is just living as an animal or a beast or a physical being in this world, and yet the relationship it has to heaven is one that is of human culture, and also may speak to a invisible or more divine connection that isn't always seen or known just by looking at the material, just by looking at the animal in of itself, and yet that spiritual connection, that connection to heaven, is made real and made manifest through the stories and the rituals of people. The gazelle, I love the gazelle. You know, you have like lightning behind the buffalo and you have the sun behind the gazelle, and the gazelle is all about grace and beauty when moving through life. So it's got speed, it's got the ability to frolic and prance and cover large swaths of ground pretty easily. It glides across the Sahara or the Serengeti. The thing about the gazelle, though, is that sometimes it can be a little bit flighty or afraid. It's always wondering or thinking about when it may be at risk of getting caught by a lion or a hyena or some other type of predator. And so the gazelle card has this grace to how it moves through the world, but also it can be frantic and skittish. And so there's an awareness around, am I moving gracefully? Or am I moving from a place of fear? Can I relax and get comfortable in my body and let the sun sit behind me, all that solar energy just radiate around me without being too caught up and worried about what's coming next? I think about these energies in relationship to each other, and it's both of them give me this vibe of like coming into a relationship with our higher spiritual aspects of ourselves, maybe just through the archetype of the eternal child. How can we tap into the childlike nature of our being? How can we allow ourselves a little bit of space and time to play and to reconnect to what we came here on earth to do by reflecting on what it was like growing up as a child? And I don't necessarily mean all the traumatic aspects of those things. I mean, in what moments of our childhood or when we were younger did we find true joy? What activities or smells or sights or movements or sounds gave us a sense of joy, and can we give ourselves that for this moment? I remember mine was like, we used to bake these almond cookies, and whenever I smell that like almond oil, it just brings back these memories of joy for me. Now I want them, but I can just feel how that smell and the activity of baking the cookies is somewhat therapeutic and brings me back into my body, but also lets me tap into that child in me, that eternal glowing light that exists. And so the buffalo to me is about having that relationship to the grounded realities of being, let's say, maybe an adult in this life right now, our material expectations, our material realities, and still not losing touch of higher forces. And in relationship to the gazelle, it's like, and allowing ourselves to then move gracefully through this exercise of coming into relationship with our body and our child and our spirituality, and to not be too afraid about what comes next, and to not be too afraid about what's around the corner, but to allow ourselves to relax, particularly in our environments, in a way that supports our bodies and allows us to come into relationship with higher orders. The sun is energy, it's light, it's goodness in the heavens. You know, even the rainstorms or the lightning, the power of greater forces greater than us, and recognizing ourselves as that and in relationship with that in a body, in a very real material environment. I have the black egg on the bottom of the deck, and for me the black egg talks about truth. So, you know, I think about how sometimes kids, they will just say whatever's on their mind. To themselves, to their parents, to anyone they're around, they're very honest. And maybe some honesty is really called for here. What's it like being in my body? What's it like to be a spiritual being, having a very physical, manifest, material experience? I know for me sometimes it's so hard to be in this body. I'm grateful for this yoga practice right now because I'm getting into deeper relationship with my body in relationship to others. And I'm able to do it in safe environments, like my home or this hotel room, where I can plug in and then plug off and then turn off and be with whatever experience is there, and even being in the practice of having vulnerable, open, physical experiences in the context and relationship to people like me. The Eight of Pentacles flew out, so I will introduce that here. The Eight of Pentacles, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually more animal spirit, which is really beautiful. But the Eight of Pentacles is all about, I think it shows the beavers here because it's about consistent and steady work at something. And so in this picture, the beaver's dam is already being built, right? But yet it's still working. And so this is like, okay, yeah, you've gotten so far and you have made a lot of progress and the work is still not done yet. So remember what you came here for. Who are you building this dam for? Is it for family? Is it for friends? Is it for stability? Is it to have a sense of home? Is it to whatever the different reasons are? And I think in this context, there are material reasons. Material in the sense of our bodies or our very 3D lives, not losing track of the 4D or spiritual nature of them, but really coming into our material environments and our bodies in the work that we're doing here in these bodies here on the earth. And approaching it all from this embodied, childlike place. This is like a message to keep going forward and continuing to work hard because once again, you are almost there. And what are you almost there towards? It's the Ten of Swords. And for me, this is in reverse. And so what this really speaks to in my mind is there might be some kind of like idea or concept that has really held you in its grasp. You may have been thinking that you are something or you are somewhere or something has to be done a certain way in order to be right or true or aligned to you. And I get this sense that through this relationship to our higher spiritual self in the form of an internal child, as we work to embody that through physical practices and maybe even prayer about, the desire to come into better relationship with our material form and setting up and relaxing into the environment that we're in, and this steady dedication of hard work, we are going to overcome some type of collective as well as individual mindset that is no longer serving us by having a new perspective on it. In my true sense, that's going to happen as we approach this full moon on Sunday. So being very aware of our spiritual commentary. What do we feel guided to do? What is our intuition saying to us? What is our spiritual practice looking like? And what are some simple steps that we can take in order to enhance that and to do it in an embodied and physical way, grounded here on the earth, starting with our physical bodies and also then extending out into our physical environments and doing the work that it takes over the next few days to set ourselves up for success and for comfort, so that we feel safe in this body and we feel safe in our immediate environments, so that as this perspective change happens, we are fully supported. We can do it from a safe, comfortable, embodied place, because it may not be the easiest thing in the world, and yet we can ease it. We can make it easier for ourselves. I'll pull one more card. Yeah. Four of Wands. You know, this woman is riding naked on the back of a horse, and I think that's exactly this. This is that comfortableness in our physical body. It's allowing ourselves to be wild and to be free and to really take the reins of life and to do it from an embodied perspective. And I love Four of Wands because to me it talks about ritual and spirituality as well. And so what are the rituals that can bring us back to our body in a safe way? What are the environments that we can set up with? Do you have an altar? Do you have a meditation space? These are very small things, but they can make a really big difference. And then doing the work to set this up, because in the next few days, I think definitely approaching, again, the full moon, to allow ourselves to drop into a place of ritual, of understanding, of feeling our divine connection in a physical body to higher forces, to spirit. A full moon ceremony or ritual may feel a little bit off the cusp, but it can really just be a moment to set intentions. This is what I want to let go, and this is what I want to call in. Light a candle, write something on a piece of paper. They're very simple things. Say a prayer, find a prayer or a poem that means something to you, and read it to the moon, and read it in the full moon. Allow yourself to be basked in the light. Yeah, so I have another deck, and I'm going to grab it. I'm going to read one more story to everyone, for all those present. This is based on the Gene Keys, and I really love this deck. It tells a story and offers a little bit of wisdom. The card is the 60th Gene Key, and this is the Gene Key of Realism. The gift of realism. So I'll read that, and then we'll call it a day. The shadow, so the unseen aspect, the aspect that's not really integrated, the thing that we're trying to come into relationship with, the shadow of limitation, which becomes the city, the highest awakened state of justice, through the gift of realism. The only thing needed for magic to occur is some form of structure and an open mind. My wisdom story. I grew up in a part of the world where religious fanaticism, poverty, and injustice were the norm. In response to oppression, people prayed for miracles. As a child, I also prayed for a better world where women and children were given more rights. But as I got older, I grew tired of praying. Magical thinking wasn't doing anyone any good, and I didn't trust my country's laws or its lawmakers. When the dictatorship was overthrown, it became possible for girls like me to go to university. Immediately, I knew I would become a lawyer, so I could change our country's sick system from the inside. The only girl in my entire family to ever receive a higher education, I buried myself in studies, learned every law imaginable, and became a skilled debater, backing up every argument against the current oppressive system with irrefutable evidence. My work life was successful, but inside I was lost, unstructured, and my relational life was non-existent. I had no true allies. My mind had become closed, limited, and rigid. I had forgotten how to dream, and had lost touch with the love of justice that drove me to learn and serve. I even started resenting the very women whose rights I had been fighting for. If they didn't agree with me, or appreciate all that I was doing, I'd fly into a rage. I'd found them completely oblivious to what it actually took to make their dreams of a better reality. I found them completely oblivious to what it actually took to make their dreams of a better life a reality. But they were angry with me because I was so busy protecting their rights that I stopped loving, respecting, and regarding them as human beings with their own voices. When one of my loyal supporters returned to her fanatical roots, I woke up, stopped arguing, and started listening to the actual dreams, needs, and desires of the people I represented. Now I see beyond the surface of things, and honor the oppressed part of everyone. I use my understanding of the law to support and empower. My open mind and dreaming heart inspire all that I do. I've learned that true justice takes a village, and that changing the world for the better can actually be an enjoyable, relationally nourishing process. My gift to you. I bring to you a love of realism and common sense. I want you to stay connected to your ideals and visions without losing sight of the practical aspects of the creative process. Just as a seed needs a shell and a river needs its banks, your dreams need you to understand the inherent structures of the world so that you can bring them to life. Do not see these structures as stifling or forever lasting limitations, but as supportive vessels perfectly designed to take you where you need to go and no further. Remember to keep the heart of your dreams close, while holding all systems, religions, and mindsets lightly. Get comfortable with uncertainty, think outside the box, and use playful language. Seeming plateaus don't mean nothing is happening. Everything of true value lives within you, so be the eyes, ears, and mind of our universe, and soon you will be making magic. Questions for contemplation. Do you tend to run away from structures and commitment? Have you had trouble finding true allies? Are you rarely involved in something that lasts? Do you hold on tightly to your own way of thinking and doing? Without certain structures in your life, would you fall apart? If you tend to be too limited, pick a structure you hold rigidly and find a concrete way to hold it just a tad more lightly this week. If you tend to be unstructured, pick an area where you struggle with discipline and experiment with following through. Reflect on your most positive experiences of realism and justice. So, I know that sometimes for me, this body and my material reality can feel like a real limitation. In some ways, being a person of color, especially a multiracial person of color, being too attached to my skin tone or my ethnicity, especially in particular environments like living in Alabama, has made it really, for a long time, practical to reject my body and my skin tone and my heritage and my ethnicity and the environments that I'm in, and to go on a journey of seeking something different. And just for today, just for this week, in this moment, I'm so grateful to have had a reason to leave and go off into my spirit and develop that aspect of myself. And I accept the challenge of coming back into this manifest, material, human body and learning to appreciate its beauty and its divinity in a very real, grounded, physical way. I'm willing to be grateful for all the things that come up that scare the shit out of me from being here in this body, and allow this environment, as well as the extended external one, to become a safe home. This is going to be hard work. 8 of Pentacles. And it's going to take a change in the way that I think about what it means to be a human being on this earth. 10 of Swords in reverse. Maybe I can use a little ceremony and use a little ritual, like yoga and meditation and purifications and intention setting, gene keys, these tools and resources I have to bring myself a little bit closer to the reality of this life. Namaste.